I've been obsessed with this perfectly marinated looking makeup lately, where the base makeup just kind of looks like it's been seamlessly fused with the complexion. And honestly, it probably is because I do have dry skin, so I just love the look of moisturized skin. So I'm going to show you some of my best tips and techniques for getting your base makeup to look like this. I'm going to start off with a very basic skin prep to just make sure that the skin stays nice and moisturized all day long. So I like to start off with a facial mist. This one's from Beekman 1802. This is the Milkshake toner. I have gone through multiple bottles of this at this point. You guys saw how it's biphase. That oily layer is so moisturizing, so you just shake it up. And then I do a couple spritz of this all over the base just to get the skin nice and moist. And then while that spray is still on the skin, I'm going to seal it off with the Rhode Glazing Milk. Just about done with this. I love this product. I feel like I've raved about it quite a bit, and it's also a nice makeup tool to use. So like if you're using something that's a little bit too thick, a couple drops of the glazing milk will help you out a lot. It's a little bit lighter than like your typical moisturizer. And then I'm going to do a little bit of eye cream. This one's from Ubeauty. This is the Return Eye Concentrate. I also like the one from Creal's, or if you just don't even want to bother with eye cream, you could totally skip it. But if you have a dry under eye, it's something I would definitely recommend. I feel like if I don't use eye cream underneath makeup, my eye makeup will tend to migrate. So I just do a nice layer of eye cream, and I like just plain Aquaphor as well. So this is splurgy, but Aquaphor works really well as well. And then for sunscreen today, I'm going to use the Fenty Skin. This is one of my favorite sunscreens for underneath makeup, because it's so moisturizing and it leaves the skin with a really nice dewy base. And I like to let my sunscreen soak in for about 5 to 10 minutes. So skin should be looking really nice and glazed. We want this nice slippy layer for makeup on top of. This is a perfectly good base to go in and start applying makeup on top of. I don't want to overcomplicate this. You could move into the next makeup steps. If you wanted to take prep a little bit further because you want a little bit different of a result, if you wanted to do an illuminating glowy base underneath the makeup, I would recommend Saie Super Glowy Gel. This is tried and true. I love this. They just came out with a full size of Warm Glow, which I think is the best shade. I also really like Rose Glow. Or you could go for like a traditional filter product, something that has a little bit more of a skin tone to it. So something like the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter. This is going to even out the skin tone a bit, and you could result in wearing less makeup if you wanted to. Or you could focus on just a traditional primer and something that would give the skin a little bit more moisture but also help with longevity. So I would recommend something like Danessa Myricks Yummy Skin or the MAC Studio Radiance. MAC Studio Radiance is a little bit more sticky, a little bit more grippy, so think a watered down version of Milk Hydro Grip. And then the Danessa Myricks is a really nice serum primer that actually does have a little bit of pearl to it and gets absorbed into the skin, but neither of these are blurring. They're just slightly tacky, slightly sticky, so they're actually going to kind of grab onto that makeup. I'm doing Danessa Myricks. This is Yummy Skin in Main Squeeze. Really nice, lightweight serum. This is a really nice moisturizing option, so I like to focus this on any dried bits on my skin. And then because I want a little bit of coverage, I'm going to do the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter. And I'm just going to do a light coverage of this all over the skin. You really don't need a lot with this. It is so glowy, but I feel like Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter is really nice underneath makeup. It's one of my favorites. I've been using it for so many years. I'm going to take a little Hourglass foundation brush, and what I'm going to do is basically just stipple this into the skin. By allowing your skincare to fully absorb before you go in with makeup, that helps so much with preventing pilling. I feel like we don't want to like rush the process and go straight in with makeup right after skincare. We want to give things some time to absorb. When we're applying products, it's really important that we're trying to minimize the amount of dragging we do and moving product around. We really just want to create that fusion by pressing and stippling the makeup in. And that's my first tip. So specifically when you're doing these types of products like the Charlotte Tilbury, or if you're doing any type of filter product, instead of really swiping this all over the base, what we want to do is form that seamless fusion, really get that makeup in that marinated looking state. We're pressing the makeup in place. We're really not trying to drag products across all the areas of the base. We really want to be using something nice and dense, like this brush so that you have more control and you can press that makeup into the skin. If we start doing a lot of swiping action, we're going to be moving products from the areas that we've placed them. And if you're really looking for that professional result, what we really do want to do is make sure that we are pressing and just taking our time and really pushing the makeup into the base. I personally feel like a gel formula foundation is great for this type of base. So I'm using Chantecaille Future Skin. This is my personal favorite. Glossier also has a really beautiful gel formula foundation, so the Glossier Stretch would be a great option for this as well. I'm kind of in between shades right now. Wheat is my typical shade, but now because it's wintertime and my skin's a little bit more fair, I'm mixing in a touch of the shade Cream. So I've just mixed these two on the back of my hand and used a tone that I feel like that's going to match. So we're gonna go with that. Again, I want to use a dense brush, so I'm gonna use that same Hourglass foundation brush, and I'm really going to load this brush up with some foundation. With a gel foundation, it might feel slightly more like thick, but it's not going to look thick on the skin as long as you do these pressing motions to push it in. And I am chasing after these areas where I have this visible hyperpigmentation, really pushing this into the skin. And what I like to do is almost work in sections on the face. Right before this foundation starts setting, I'm going to take a sponge and pick up any excess product that's sitting there. But again, this is just going to help kind of further push that foundation into the skin. Get a little bit more of a seamless effect. So I really want to focus on my problem areas first. And just, the goal here shouldn't be to create a fully flawless look. Like, you're definitely still going to see some of this post-acne hyperpigmentation, but that is something we will address when we're doing like the final steps and we want to create a little bit more of a concealed effect on those areas. Taking the sponge is just going to further pick up any excess products, but also any visible brush strokes that you might be having from the dense brush. This is just going to give you a little bit more of a perfected look so that the makeup doesn't look streaky. So the goal with this step wasn't to create this fully flawless look. We just wanted to even out the skin tone. It's okay if you're still seeing some problem areas peek through. We're going to go and address those a little bit later. I also need to throw a little bit on the eyelids. I always forget to do that, but a little bit of foundation on the eyelids just so everything is the same tone. Next, I'm going with my cream bronzer. I want to do cream bronzer first because this is going to give the base a little bit more dimension, and we can just set it in place with powder or a powder bronzer afterward. I'm using, technically this is a contour stick, but the shade does not work for me for contouring. It's really warm, and I think you'll see as I start blending this in, it just performs like a bronzer for me. This is the Dior contour stick. It's part of the Forever line. I really like this because even though it's a cream, it has a little bit more of a powdery finish on the base. I feel like it's a very similar formula to a foundation stick because it has coverage. I know that sounds wild, but it's beautiful. And I'm using a Mario. I'm using one of the little the number rubbed off on this, but it's the Mario angled brush with the two ends. I'm using the fluffier side and just add warmth back to the skin. So to replicate a little bit more of a tanned look, I want to take this on the high points of the cheeks, pull it in toward the centers, the top of the forehead. As you can see, instead of striping this directly onto the skin, I find that that makes it, like, the blending process so difficult. So I really like to pick it up off of my brush and then apply it to the skin. Don't swipe. Do not do it. Don't swipe. Pat and press, stipple as you blend. So this is optional, but I do think that contouring on top of bronzing makes for just like a little bit more of an impactful contour, and it won't get muddied between the bronzer when you start blending it out. So I'm using the little Victoria Beckham Stylus contour. This is amazing for precision contouring because, as you can see, it's basically the size of an eyeshadow stick. And so for any of these like precise contours you want to achieve, this is great for that. Very emollient, really easy to blend. I like to take it on the corners of the eyes, around the lips. That creates a little bit of fullness, and if you want, you can also use it to create a little bit of lift around the cheekbones. For the nose contour, I'm blending this out with the Patrick Ta This is the number 3 contour brush. It has this like fanned out side, really good density, nice for blending out little precision areas on the face. And then for the cheeks, I'm going to use the Patrick Ta. This is the number 3 for face. And to blend out the contour, I like to do this stippling motion like that. If you want like a little bit more of a dramatic contour, you can pull it further in towards the center of the face. This isn't necessarily part of the tutorial, but I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna use. I really wanna try this palette. This is the Spice palette from Anastasia. I'm kind of developing a glitter allergy, and specifically with shades that have like this kind of formula. I don't know if I've just been having bad luck or if I'm actually getting a reaction to eyeshadows. I don't even like want to think about that, but there's been a couple times where I've used these glitter shadows and then my eye starts watering uncontrollably, and it will sometimes last more than 24 hours. I'm gonna take a little bit of this shade right here and just run that on the lid and kind of pull it up to the crease and just blend that out too. I actually really like that color. It's kind of like a little bit pinky. A little bit of this dark color right here. This I'm also going to focus on the lid area. While these are pigmented, I need to like transfer some of that to the other eye, but because this is darker, I want to keep it focused on the lid space. And then just on my finger, I'm gonna take this like shimmery shade from the middle section. I'm just gonna press that, but kind of focus it on the center of the eyelid and just blend it out with my finger. Okay, and then I'm just gonna throw a little bit of eyeliner on. This is the Buxom Bossy Brunette. This is the Powerline from Buxom. I love these. I feel like these are super underrated. They're such good eyeliners. And I'm just gonna smudge that in the waterline and in the tight line. And then I'm just gonna take a little bit of brown liquid liner really close to the lash line. It makes my actual lashes appear a lot thicker. Doing my blush before I do my concealer has also been a huge game changer. I just think it looks a little bit better, and you can control where the blush hits on the face because you can do some correcting with the concealer if you do it after blush. I'm using one of the new Patrick Ta blushes. This is the shade She's Seductive. This is such a good one. So there's 4 new shades of the Patrick Ta major blush duos. I love these blushes, and we're going to do this the Patrick way because I do like how this adds life to the skin. So we start with the powder side. So when I'm dipping in, I'm really just taking a touch and slowly building this up. I like to pull a color like this a little bit higher on the cheekbone and take it toward the nose slightly. This is the Patrick Ta number 3 again. And then I'm gonna take the dense side, and this is going to pick up the cream, and we're gonna lightly tap the cream on top and let it bounce off of the skin. Now is the time we can go in and start to spot conceal. So I'm going to use the Kosas Revealer Concealer. This one is in the shade 6O. And this is what I'm going to do is just put barely any product on this hyperpigmentation that I want to hide. So any post-acne that's sticking out, redness around the nose, we're just taking a little bit, putting it on these problem areas, just like that. Now I'm going to go in with a brightening shade to visibly brighten and lift under the eyes. I'm going to use the Sarah Creal Concealer. This is the Face Flex Concealer and Complexion Enhancer. This has more of a serum formula, so it's really nice underneath the eyes because it doesn't settle into lines. And I'm just going to do this where I need a little bit of extra help. And I know I say this all the time, but it really is some of the best advice I can give you. Give this some time to marinate and really settle down before you go in and blend it. So just occupy yourself with another part of the routine. I like to go in and start working on brows. I'm using the Kosas Airbrow. By allowing the concealer time to settle, it's going to dry down a touch and it's gonna get really nice and tacky and just get into that perfect state where you can blend it out and it's gonna keep its coverage. Now I'm going to take a full coverage touch-up brush. So this is from Bobbi Brown. It's got this really nice domed tip. Performs much like a finger on the face. So you're getting this nice little kind of like finger tap effect as you're blending out the concealer, but you're not gonna leave fingerprints on the makeup. Anywhere we placed it, we're just lightly bouncing the brush over all those problem spots. I'm going to quickly go in with a little bit of loose powder, and what I'm going to do is set those areas where we had the post-acne hyperpigmentation so that that doesn't move around when we go in with the rest of the powder. So I'm just going to set all of that down. I'm using that same brush we had the concealer on. I like to set my cream bronzer with powder bronzer, so I'm going to use the Dibs Duet, and this is a airbrush complexion powder brush, number 143. This is part of the It Cosmetics for Ulta line. It's a really nice, you know, ball-shaped brush, and I'm just going to apply this in a tapping motion all over the cream bronzer. And I do like to take this slightly on the apple of the cheek. Then we're going to focus on setting the under eye and toning down the shine on the face. So I'm going to use, going back in with that powder. The reason I wanted to set the hyperpigmentation before bronzer is so that when I'm, you know, dusting the bronzer on top of these areas of the face, so that that concealer doesn't move around. So next I'm just gonna take my loose powder. I'm using a little dual-ended hourglass brush, and I'm going to lightly stipple this onto the base and use the other end to just sheer it out a bit. I also want to take this under the eyes just to set that liquid concealer. Then also tapping this gently around the mouth. By tapping this in place, we're just ensuring that these cream and liquids aren't going to move around. And to give everything a little bit more of a perfected blend across the base, I like to take a finishing powder. I'm using Meteorites for this. This one's in shade number 3. I like to take a big fluffy brush. This is a NARS bronzer brush. So it's almost shaped like a seashell, but it's just going to give the face a nice even dusting of this powder. Okay, super important. What we're gonna do is tap this all over. This will further set the rest of the makeup without completely mattifying it down. You'll still have this really nice soft glow. And I do love how it just adds a little bit of radiance to the skin, a very natural amount. This is not as glowy as some of my other favorite setting powders, so I like this for this type of look. Now we're moving into the finishing touches. So I'm gonna throw on a little bit of mascara. I'm using this one from Dior. This is the Dior Show Waterproof Mascara. This mascara just like makes me feel better about myself. It makes me look like I have really great lashes. Okay, now what I like to do is go in and just kind of like focus on some complexion touch-ups. So I love to do just a little bit of highlight on the nose. That way you don't have to emphasize texture on the skin. And you can see we've already got some really great glow on the high points. So I just think don't monkey around with it. Sometimes when you put a lot of highlight on the high points, it just creates a little bit more of an emphasis on texture. And if you're not having the best skin day, I would skip it. If I'm having a good skin day, I am all about the glow, and I will do glow on the high points and everything. Do a little bit on the nose, and even just highlighting the nose, it makes such a big difference. Like, you get that glow, but you don't have to emphasize the rest of the face. I also really like doing a little bit of freckles. This is from Tarte. This is the Go With The Faux little freckle stamp. So there's 5 little notches on here. You press the top, it extends, and there's like a stamp with freckle liquid in there. So you just go like that and then dot it on the skin, and it creates a bunch of freckles at once, and then you just tap it in place. I'm going to do a quick lip. I'm going to use Almond from Makeup by Mario. I'm doing his little lip lift lining. This is the Givenchy 110 Rose Perfecto Milky Nude. I love this color. I feel like this one's been a favorite for, you guys, I feel like this has been a favorite for like 2 years. Okay, and then this gloss, I'm literally obsessed with it. This is the Kiko 3D Hydra Lip Gloss. It's in the shade number 2. This is one of those glosses that just makes literally everything so much better. So then your lips just do have that like wet shine to them. It's perfect. Okay, now we need to finish off with the setting spray. So you could stop here again. That's why I just want to show you all the options, everything that you have going on. So you could totally stop here. The skin is set with that finishing powder. So we have a glowy finishing powder all over the skin. The base is literally dry to the touch. Like, you touch it, you're not gonna get any transfer. The makeup is locked and loaded. If you would like it to have a little bit more of a soft sheen to the skin and you want that extra little bit of glisten on the skin, I would recommend the Iconic London Prep Set Glow Mist. This has a built-in illuminator, so it's just going to lightly give the skin even more glow without the skin becoming sticky or tacky. If you don't want to add shimmer, I would recommend something like the Mario Surreal Skin Soft Setting Spray. Really nice atomizer on this. And there is no sheen, no pearl to it. Let me show you, and then we'll do Iconic on top. So just a little bit of that Mario. It's even less glowy than something like the Hourglass Veil Mist, which is one of my favorites, but that's super, super glowy and definitely gives a little bit more of a sheen to the skin. So with the Mario, you can see now we've just got a little bit of that glow added back. You can especially see it on the high points of the skin and giving the shine a little something to make it stand out a bit more. Now, if you really wanted to add some glow to the skin, you can use the Iconic one. A little bit. Now you can see with Iconic, again, subtle. That's why I don't want you to be afraid of the Iconic one. It's not gonna make you look greasy, but you can see now the glow is just slightly turned up a notch, but I still think it looks really pretty and soft because it just lightly caresses the face with that glow, but it's not too much, you know what I mean? All right, so that's it for this tutorial. This is the finished base look. I love the way this turned out. If you have any other specific makeup tutorials that you really want to see in the near future, like for the month of January, please leave them down below. Let me know. If you guys have any questions or you need any advice on this type of technique, please leave them down below. Let me know. I will do my best to help you. I'll also list and link all of the products in the description box down below for you. But other than that, I will see you in my next video. Thank you so much for watching this one. Bye, guys.